Dymocks Children's Charities is proud to be the principal partner of the Premier's Reading Challenge and bring the Authors online series to children across the state as part of our commitment to increase literacy skills and the love of reading.
And welcome to the very first for this year Dymocks Children's Charities Premier's Reading Challenge Authors Online. This morning we have the wonderful author Margaret Wild with us. Margaret has 26 books on the Premier's Reading Challenge book list and has been shortlisted for the CBCA award many times. On behalf of the students across New South Wales and those in remote and isolated areas, the Premier's Reading Challenge would like to express its thanks to Margaret and Dymocks Children's Charities for making these events possible. Margaret, thank you for your time and welcome, and I'll hand across to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you everyone for coming along today, and I hope we're going to have a good time talking about books and writing, and anything you'd like to ask me, that'd be great. I've written actually more than 70 books. I'm aiming for 100, I think. This is going to be my latest, called Leo, the Little Seahorse. That comes out in August.
Why did you start writing books?
I'd actually always written stories when I was at school and when I was working, but when my children were very small, I started reading picture books to them, and there were two I really liked. One was called Where the Wild Things Are. You probably all know that story. And John Brown, Rose and the Midnight Cat. And I liked those books so much, I thought that perhaps I would try to write some stories myself. So I sat down and wrote some stories, and I was very lucky they got published. One of them was called There's a Sea in My Bedroom, which you probably all know. This is what I call my lucky book.
What inspires you to write on a daily basis?
It's actually getting a new idea I find really exciting, and the way I work is that I don't start writing a story right away. I think about it in my head, and that's where I write my story. So I think about it might take days or weeks or months before I actually get down to writing it. I'll just show you one of my notebooks, because this is where I actually jot down ideas and so on. And I'll write down little bits of my story, any ideas I've got, any words. And it's only once I've really got the idea in my mind, I'll actually sit down at the computer and write. And this is called Potbelly and Billy, which is actually that new book that I told you about called Leo. The title changed over time. Really, the thing that gets me up in the morning is just having a new idea. My biggest problem actually is that I have too many ideas. And so the temptation is not to finish one story, but to actually start a new one. So I've got to make myself finish a story before I'm allowed to have the enjoyment of starting a new one. And the way I write is that I write and I rewrite. I think it's really important when you are wanting to write a story that the first story you write is not going to be the best words or the best way of telling a story. So I keep on doing it over and over and over again until I think that's probably the best I can do. I also have a lot of stories that actually are no good, and they go into a big filing cabinet, and maybe one day I might look at them again and see if I can make them work.
You often write about things that are important to white audiences, such as friendship. Why do you choose to write especially for young audiences?
That's a great question, and a lot of people say to me, when are you going to write stories for adults? And actually, I just love writing for children because they're so imaginative. They will believe the most amazing things as long as I can make it convincing. They will believe that you could have a sea in your bedroom, for example, or hippos that can talk.
Where do you get your ideas from?
I get my ideas from lots of different places, often from things I hear or I see. I love travelling in buses and trains and looking at people and listening to them. And ideas can come from anywhere. For example, you might know this book called Baby Bird's Blankie. Now that idea came from when I was sitting outside with my granddaughter, and a leaf sort of twirled out of a tree, and I said to my granddaughter, who's called Olivia, "That's baby bird's blankie." And she said, "Oh, who's baby bird and why is that the blankie?" So we started making up a story on the spot. But if that leaf actually hadn't fallen out of the tree, I wouldn't really have thought of writing this book. The pocket dogs came about because a friend of mine told me about a man who used to see walking down the street with a little dog in each pocket. This was a real man and real dogs. And I loved the idea so much that I thought I'd write a story about it. This is the second one. This is The Pocket Dogs Goes on Holiday. The first one is just called The Pocket Dogs.
Have you had an experience like the characters in Fox?
That's a good question. Actually, I haven't really, except that, like with most children at school, there always are bullies. There are children who try to break up other friendships and children who try to control things. And I think that's what I was thinking about with Fox, about if you do have a close friendship, what happens if a third person comes in and is jealous and envious and wants to break it up. So that, I guess, is my closest experience. I've certainly known people, perhaps like Fox, who are very unhappy, and because they're unhappy, they want to make other people unhappy. But that doesn't happen too often. With Fox, you'll notice that there are two different covers on this book. This was written about 10 years ago, and this is the new edition that's coming out because it's an anniversary edition. And I don't know which version you like better. I think they're both lovely, but they're both a bit different on the back too. You can see what it looks like. So the inside is the same. But it's very exciting for a book to be around for 10 years and to have a new cover. Fox has also been made into a musical. It's really an opera, and that's going to be actually travelling around the country. It'll be interesting to see, if any of you see that, what you think about how Fox has been made into a musical work.
Do you base your characters on the people you have met?
Only bits of them. I would never write a story that somebody would actually be able to recognise themselves, because I think that's not a fair thing to do, and it might upset them and make them angry anyway. But it is aspects of their character or their personality or something I found interesting about them. And it might be someone I met 20 years ago, 10 years ago. And I just remember a tiny thing about them that'll come into a story. Sometimes some of my stories, for example, Jenny Angel, I don't know if you know that story, it's a bit of a sad story, but it actually was based on a real incident in my family. Trying to think of other ones. Nighty Night, for example, which is about baby animals who don't want to go to sleep. Well, that story came about because at the place I worked, when I left work in the evening, the receptionist would say, "Nighty Night." And I just liked the words "Nighty Night" and wrote a story around that.
Our question is, we noticed that you get different illustrators to work with you. Do you or the publishers choose who illustrates your books?
When I'm writing a story, I actually have pictures in my head. I might have an idea, for example, like Nighty Night, which is a book about animals. Well, I would love to have Kerry Argent to illustrate it. Maybe I wouldn't get her, but I would request the publisher that they would send the story to an illustrator, and if the illustrator likes it, then we'll go ahead. Often you don't get the illustrator you want because they might be very busy on lots of other books. Sometimes you have to wait, and I'm always happy to wait for an illustrator, maybe 1 year, 2 years, 3 years before they can actually start work on a book. With illustrations, what you're trying to do is to match in the story with the right pictures. So with something like Baby Bird's Blankie, because it's a funny little book, we need sort of funny pictures. It wouldn't be suitable to have serious, dark pictures and something like that. So you're always trying to find a match between the story and the pictures. One of my favourites, of course, is Fox, and I can't imagine anybody else who would have been able to illustrate the story. Rob Brooks's illustrations are fantastic, and I've actually written a story about another animal which he's illustrating at the moment, and again, I think he would be the only person or the best person to illustrate that book.